What's up, my fellow nerds? Welcome to Tales of Nerdia. If you watched my last video, you know I've been studying the Chimera Ant Arc in great detail recently. During that time, I noticed some interesting scenes, I researched some characters, and I found a few differences between the manga and the 2011 anime. So I've put together my top 10 things you may not have noticed during the Chimera Ant Arc. Hope you enjoy. Number 1. Starting with episode 76 of the anime, we received the second version of the opening song Departure with new animation, as well as a new EP. During the EP, the hunters involved in this arc briefly flash on screen. If you paid close attention to this, you'll see that Kite and Netero are the only characters who have their backs to the audience. It's a subtle foreshadowing of their inevitable deaths. Netero even gives a thumbs up like he's saying goodbye before blasting off into the stars. As Gon, Killua, and Kite sit around the campfire, Kite tells them the story of how he met Jing. Now this story is actually exclusive to the 2011 anime, but I'm going to count it as canon, and we're going to draw some interesting similarities between Kite and Kurama, a character from one of Togashi's previous works, Yu Yu Hakusho. In their original forms, both have similar appearances, and they both used to be thieves. Kurama starts out as a demon, but after a close encounter with death, his weakened spirit drifts to the human world into the womb of a pregnant human, where he is eventually reborn as a red-headed human. Kite starts out as a human who has a close encounter with death or possibly dies, but his aura or memories take shelter in the pregnant Chimera Ant Queen. He is eventually reborn as a red-headed Chimera Ant. So actually, even if you leave out the fact that they were both thieves, their stories and appearances are extremely similar. In episode 80, Colt and Peggy examine the bodies of ants killed by Pakle's Nen, and while discussing this new threat, Peggy implies that the humans will try to kill the queen if they learn her whereabouts. Colt is annoyed by this and says that they need to do whatever it takes to protect the queen. So he starts to think to himself for a moment before saying aloud, "I will protect Reina." So this is significant in showing the human side of Colt that still remembers his sister, but it's actually a double entendre, and that's because Reina, in Spanish, literally translates to queen. Many of the Chimera ants have interesting dot patterns on their head. The most common patterns I noticed are the 3 dots or the 5 dots, but they do vary a bit. But what are they, or do they have any meaning? After extensive research, I could tell you it has nothing to do with birth order, strength, ranking, or their human memories. However, Reddit user bennlimos pointed out to me that these are most likely a leftover trait from their more ant-like ancestors called an ocellus, or a simple eye. A simple eye refers to a type of eye form or optical arrangement that contains a single lens, as opposed to a multi-lensed compound eye. You'll see a wide variety of simple eye designs in arthropods, and they have a lot of novel solutions to help them overcome visual problems and limitations. So it's clear that Togashi was doing his research when creating these chimera ants. Number 5. In a recent interview with Togashi and Kishimoto, the author of Naruto, Togashi stated that he sometimes names characters based on what he's watching on TV when he can't come up with something himself. If that's truly the case, he must have been watching a lot of baseball during this arc. Not only are Knuckle, Shoot, Palm, and Gyro all named after baseball pitches, but we also see Killua, Chitu, and Morel making baseball analogies throughout the arc. In episode 89, when Gon fakes out Knuckle with his Jajanken, Killua compares it to a pitch down the middle that you just have to swing for. In episode 95, After Cheetu easily dodges a punch from Knuckle, he compares Knuckle's slow reaction to a batter swinging after a strike has already been called. Finally, Cheetu flees from Morel and Knuckle. Knuckle suggests that they chase him down and finish him off since they know his attacks already. Morel lectures him, saying that they may know Cheetu's pitches, but that doesn't mean that they can connect the bat with the ball. Number 6. This one is for anime-only fans. Gyro's backstory was handled, I think, really well in the anime, aside from some few key details Madhouse decided to leave out. In the manga, we see Gyro walking down the street, and we're told he's actually in the same town as Gon and Killua, after their first encounter with Knuckle. This is actually when we see his history in the manga. Here's a quote from the Viz translation at the end of Gyro's short little segment. Gyro left town and disappeared without encountering Gon. Whether this proved to be fortunate for either party will not be known until they ultimately meet. So why did Madhouse leave this out? My guess is that it's because they knew it wouldn't be relevant to the anime since they were running out of source material to adapt. Number 7. This one's also for anime-only fans. After the Chimera Ants find out about Nen, we learn that Rammot is an enhancer. And he was a pretty interesting character, and you might have been disappointed that he never develops a hatsu. However, in the manga, during his fight with Killua, we actually see that he enhances the sharpness of his feathers, turning them into giant blades. And for this one, I cannot think of a reason why Madhouse would leave this out other than it being an oversight. Number 8. In episode 85, after Gon and Killua see Kite's body as Pito's puppet, they join the rest of the hunters on the train back to East Gorto. While they're on the train, Morel and Nov start discussing their thoughts on bringing the two along, and Morel refers to them as grown tigers who can handle their own messes. It's important to note here that in the Viz translation of the manga, he's actually only referring to Gon. Morel says, "There's a tiger in him now." Flash forward now to episode 125, where Pito realizes how dangerous Gon is after he calmly moves up the deadline to her healing Komugi because of Poof's actions. She realizes she's gotta risk her life so that Gon's fangs don't reach the king's throat, and envisions a vicious tiger inside of Gon. It's a great callback to Morel's words on that train ride. Number 9. Now you may have already figured out that Netero's hatsu is based off of a real Buddhist divinity by googling just the name of his hatsu. But the reference doesn't stop with the name and physical features. Really, I could make a whole video about this, but instead I just want to point out 2 pieces of imagery I found interesting. The first is a scene where Netero's fight with Meruem finally starts. This is a reference to the Lotus Sutra, which is generally accepted to be the earliest literature teaching about the doctrines of this divinity. Some Buddhists believe that when one dies, they are placed in the heart of the lotus by the Guanyin, pardon the pronunciation, and they're then sent to the Western Pure Land. Yet another foreshadowing of Netero's imminent death. The second scene involves Netero expressing his thanks for everything that made the meeting of the king possible. He forms his hands into a heart symbol, and this is a reference to the Heart Sutra, which is unique because the sutra is completely dedicated to the Guanyin. Number 10. Things are gonna get a bit dark now. In the beginning of episode 134, the narrator starts by saying humans are far worse than Chimera Ants. What follows is a series of images and scenes of the horrific history of man. Some of these images are likely inspired by real-world events. For example, the conflict between Japan and the US during World War II. This scene closely resembles the B-29 Superfortress bombers over Japan in 1945. Next up, you have this famous photo taken by Eddie Adams during the Vietnam War. And finally, This last piece reminds me of the brutal beating of Rodney King by police that was caught on home video, followed by the LA riots. So that's it for my top 10. Let me know in the comments section if you learned anything new, or how many of these did you already know. Thank you guys so much for your support. Thank you for watching. Please drop me a like if you enjoyed the video, and subscribe for more, plenty more to come, and I will see you all very soon. Bye.